Hi, this is Ken Parker welcoming you to another episode of Common Ground, the policy roundtable where we bring together a panel with diverse views on issues of concern to Newton residents and try to hammer out some of our differences. For those of you who are new to the show, let's review the rules. First, I introduce a topic. Then we go around the table once, with each panelist expressing a viewpoint. I then select the two panelists who disagree the most strongly and give them the opportunity to speak directly to one another in hopes of finding some area of agreement. That will not be difficult tonight for reasons that will soon become apparent. We also, because tonight is a special show, our New Year's show, will have an added segment at the end where we will make predictions for the new year. Without further ado, let me introduce tonight's excellent panel. We have Andy Levin, the editor of the Newton Tab. So the third estate is here. Or are you the fourth estate now? You get promoted? Anyway, Andy, how long have you been editor of the Tab?
3.5 years, going on 3.5 years now, I think.
And are you enjoying it still?
Yeah.
We can't call you the new editor anymore.
No, nope.
You've been there for a while,
yeah,
and
seen a lot, and it's been fun.
it's been interesting for you?
Oh gosh.
You grew up in Newton, so
absolutely.
So it's a homecoming,
and this is an interesting time in the city's history.
Yeah.
So,
isn't that
it's not boring?
Isn't that a curse in Chinese though? The curse is "May you live in interesting times."
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
But it is certainly, these are interesting times locally and
very,
nationally,
right.
and on every level. So,
right.
Well, thanks for being back on the panel,
My
Andy.
pleasure.
And we have Matt Yospin.
Hi, Ken. How
Great
are
to
you?
have you, Matt.
Thanks, Ken. Nice to be here.
And Matt, of course, is a patent attorney.
Yes.
And a Newton activist. We call you a Newton activist because we don't know what else to call it.
Well,
Very involved on many issues.
Thank you, Ken. Yeah, I don't think I'm quite old enough yet to be a curmudgeonly gadfly.
A gadfly?
Well, maybe
would you aspire to be a gadfly?
in the fullness of time, yes.
Okay. How about a muckraker for you? Would you care to be a muckraker?
I do not consider myself to be a muckraker.
Not yet. But would you
that
aspire
would
to
be,
that, though?
You know, others. I don't like to be a muckraker.
You don't want to be a muckraker.
But I will sometimes stir the pot.
Oh,
But
pot
that
stirrer, but not a
Not a
muckraker.
muckraker. No.
Okay, fair enough.
No.
Your predecessor, a couple of back.
No.
No.
I would not, Emily Costello was there for me for a few years,
Okay.
and Gail was not a muckraker.
No muckrakers.
I don't think we've had
We
muckrakers.
actually,
at
we
the
haven't.
Tab
Frankly,
in
we
my
haven't had
time.
enough muckraking. I was thinking way back to Ellen Ishkanian with the graphic. She did a little. She raked a little muck from time
And
to time.
Ellen, of course, is in City Hall now. I saw Ellen today.
Oh, that's right. Yeah,
Yeah,
no, I love.
absolutely.
I worked with Ellen when I wrote a column for the graphic while she was at it. I loved
remember
Ellen.
the graphic. I remember it.
Ellen was fantastic.
Yeah.
Real good journalist.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know how she'll be at City Hall. We'll see, but she's
she'll be
certainly
fine.
an excellent journalist. Anyway, lots to get to.
Yep.
So let's just start off by going around the table and seeing what issues each of the panelists thinks will be the biggest challenges facing the new administration, the Fuller administration. So, Andy, you want to start us off?
Sure. I mean, it's clear. It's the fiscal sustainability of the city, and there are many factors involved in that. The number one is the billion-dollar liability that
OPEB,
all of us
post-retirement
and
benefits.
The
pensions
other
and pensions.
post-employment benefits.
Yeah, pensions and post-employment benefits, which is about $1 billion. It's over $1 billion. I think it's $1.3 billion right now. The new
Was
mayor.
that former senator from Illinois? You said $1 billion here, $1 billion there. Pretty soon you're talking about real
It's
money.
a lot of money, and that impacts everything else that we try to do as a city. So that is a huge challenge. And how do you address that? By having good, strong growth, which we've had here in the city, certainly since, for a long time. But growth has been remarkable since, 2011-ish, 2012. Things started to turn around in the real estate economy.
Our tax revenue has been going up consistently a little over 3% a year.
Right,
2.5% plus
right.
the new growth factor.
Right.
So that's
but the new growth is key, and how long that new growth goes at the rate and increases at the rate that it has since, what your house was worth.
Sorry to interrupt, Andy, but you're talking about growth in the residential real estate market.
Yeah. And it's been phenomenal in Newton
But
since
the
about
price-
2012.
But a value going up doesn't mean more revenue. You need new development.
It doesn't hurt.
Well, no, it has no
Oh,
effect. It's
no,
totally
no.
neutral.
Value going up means more revenue. I mean, if you tear down an $800,000 home
Oh,
and you build
okay.
a $2.5 million home,
Building new
which is
construction
what's happening.
would.
Not necessarily 2.5 million, but $1.5 million.
Right,
Right.
but what I'm saying is an appraisal going up of an existing structure does not generate more revenue
No,
because the
becau-
rate goes down because the revenue can only
But
go
the,
up 2.5%.
but the assessed values in a neighborhood are impacted as that neighborhood changes,
Right.
and where you have the $800,000 ranch home being knocked to the ground and replaced by right, without a special permit, $1.5 million home, and when it's goes from 2 houses on a street in South Newton to 8 houses.
So we're going from
There's
the
a reciprocal effect.
$520,000 house to the $1.3 million house.
There are
is
no more $523,000.
Ken, if you can point out a $520,000 house to me in Newton, I would love
That
to
would
see
have
it.
been maybe
well, there
in
are still-
2008.
There are
Yeah.
still plenty of houses appraised at that by the city. Whether
There's
that's
a difference.
But there's a
actual-
difference
The
between
assessed
appraisal
value.
and market value.
Oh yeah,
Right.
no, I'm talking about
What those sell for.
appraisals for tax purposes.
Okay.
But the market value does bring up the assessed value over time,
Right.
and
Right.
in
And of course,
neighborhoods.
assessed value, that's the correct
And
term.
so that's
I
the
said
growth that
appraisal,
we're
but
seeing.
that's- I meant assessed value by
will
our-
that growth continue at the rate that it has for the past
so
half
the
a dozen
challenge
years?
for the new administration, in a nutshell, is to maintain growth, or is it to balance the budget
Both.
to get more?
It's finding that balance and finding how you can have a
Okay,
more.
well, just to refine
Yeah.
it, is it passing a 2.5 override? Is that part of the challenge in the
I
next
think there
4
will.
years?
Yeah, I think there will be one. At least there will be a proposed one.
And then, of course, the mayor is going to be the chief proponent of it, you would think. I mean, you can't get one passed without a mayor
You
behind it,
have to
right?
have the mayor push and sell it.
Okay, Matt, what do you think the biggest challenge facing the new administration is?
I don't want to stray too far from what Andy said because I think you're right, but I would like to put the focus on commercial development and growing the commercial tax base because residential development is controversial for a number of reasons, as we've seen, and also the growth in revenue from residential development is limited. You need a Proposition 2.5 override to get around it. We do have space for much more commercial development in theory. It could alleviate a lot of other problems that the city has facing it, I think, some of which I hope we go through tonight. And I think I haven't seen enough plans for new commercial development in the city for what I think we need. You know,
I
the city
agree.
has eliminated its industrial base. I mean, looking back 80, 100 years, we've eliminated our farming base. There's very little, industrial activity left in Newton.
Offices and retail, that's most of our commercial, right?
Right, and we could have more of those. But instead, it feels like both the previous administration, Seti Warren's administration, and a lot of people around the city are trying very hard to develop residential buildings.
Right.
Small, or like single family or 2-family homes and large buildings.
So let's talk specifically.
I'd rather see commercial
There's
development.
that proposed development in the Needham Street corridor that is, from what I understand, like like 1,000 units they're talking
The
about.
Northland project.
Yeah, the Northland
Yeah.
project.
They did come out with a 900 plus units. No, you're right. Matt's 100% right. The commercial development is certainly I was going to say is the second biggest factor, right? So you have to have union contracts have to be realistic and sustainable. The question with the residential real estate value, I wasn't saying that this is something that necessarily should happen. I was raising the question, will this continue to rise? Because over the past 8 years, I think Newton has been able to do a lot because there has been such an increase in that residential real estate value, which is impacted by the McMansions, right? People talk about the McMansions, but you really need the commercial development to provide the revenue.
So here's my
to
question
attack
to the
OPEB.
panel.
Right.
Let me phrase it specifically as a question. Is a project like the proposed Northland, if you take a commercially zoned district like that and put that much residential in it, is that a missed opportunity for commercial revenue growth? What do you think, Andy?
Could be. The reason that they threw out 900 plus units when they first had this vision of the, I think it's 28 acres back there behind the Marshall's Plaza. I think even the most passionate housing advocates in the city would say
When you say
900.
Oh, just to
Yeah.
talk terminology.
Right.
We're word guys.
People who
What-
are
a housing advocate. Just to be
a
clear,
people
are they
who believe
affordable
that
housing advocate
yes,
or they're
yes, but they also are believe that there's
urbanization advocates?
not
Density
necessarily
advocates.
Yes.
Okay.
Density
because I think there's really
advocates.
two different groups of people. There's people who would like to see Newton be more densely populated. They like dense population. They think that is better for the environment. They just think it's a good thing. And then people who think we need a higher percentage of our housing in the Boston area to be available for people with lower incomes.
Right.
Those are kind of two, sometimes even competing thoughts, if you think about it. If you're talking about a ratio, that if you build more expensive housing, you're actually pushing things in the other direction.
So there's the two issues with the housing is the dominant issue in Newton. We took a break for several months and we discussed the charter reform initiative, but housing is.
Some people think that was lurking underneath.
It was. It certainly was, but you know what?
Everybody who's not being disingenuous, I think, is aware that
it
housing
certainly
was
was.
strongly and development
generally
was strongly the subtext to the charter.
But there's the two issues with the housing. There's the density. There's the affordable housing. There's let's put up an apartment building with 160
so Andy, you're
units.
saying that people.
And then, but let me just finish what I was saying, Ken. The other part of the housing issue in Newton is what we were discussing, the McMansions, the knocking down the $800,000
So let's talk
ranches.
about Northland for a second, though. You're saying that even the most zealous housing advocate of either flavor, I guess, thinks 1,000 units is a little bit much.
It's jaw-dropping, isn't it?
Yeah, it's
It's a big number.
yeah.
Here's the thing that I don't understand about.
Missed opportunity there if they put a lot of housing in or not.
Absolutely. Yeah, but let's get back to that in a sec.
Okay.
I can understand the arguments that the advocates of density make. Typically density clustered around a village center where there's some existing public transportation infrastructure. Maybe it's not so great, but it could be improved, and if there's something there, that's better than nothing. I don't think that's there at the Northland parcel behind Marshall's.
No, the T doesn't go there.
I'm hedging.
Sergeant Elkovich had proposed
I'm hedging.
it, but
there's nothing there.
That's
no matter how
one
many,
issue.
No matter how many units you put there, this is not Field of Dreams.
Well,
Building 1,000 or 900 units of housing is not going to make a light rail line magically materialize all the way out
Yeah, in fact-
to Upper
in fact,
Falls.
the rail
Much as I'd
line-
love if it did,
the old
it's not going to
train
happen.
track right of way, in fact, has now become a bike path. So
the Greenway, it's beautiful.
yes,
It's
an
great.
absolutely
but there
great
aren't
place.
any trains running on it
And
anymore.
even if we build the housing, it's not going back to trains.
No,
And so,
I think that ship has sailed, or
that-
that train has departed the station.
yes.
Look,
so,
I
so
will say
that,
this. I'll
that,
say-
that group of advocates, the density advocates,
Right.
I don't think can or should be able to make with a straight face the argument that this Northland proposal
Transit-oriented development.
it is not transit-oriented development, and it's not any sort of sensible high-density development
No.
because it's just
Well,
out.
we don't know what they're going to propose. Number one,
Okay.
But they've been floating.
I mean,
some
are
things.
they
We know
gonna
it'll be-
propose,
we know
are they
it'll
gonna
be-
propose a light rail line or bus rapid transit, which my transit friends love?
The public transportation issue is a major one that's an impediment to the development that Northland's envisioned. I don't think Northland is going to submit a project that has 900 plus residential units. That said, if you're going to have commercial development all along that Needham Street corridor, you do want to have people there to support it, because people aren't going to say, hey, I'm going to go down Needham Street and try to park my car in a parking lot there. You have to have
Well, as someone who has an office in that corridor, I will be there to support the businesses, as I regularly am.
I live right near there, and I go down there all the time. And
Yeah, no,
boy, I hope there's a Marshall's there somewhere, because we love Marshalls. And
I use the businesses on the Needham Street corridor
Yeah,
all the
absolutely.
time. From getting pet food to getting
yep,
human food to getting. I mean, I'm sad to see the EMS go bankrupt. I see there's a new outdoor place. It looks more like clothing than hiking
That's a
equipment.
TJX company. That is Sierra Trading.
Yeah,
Yes,
it
there
does.
And it's a Marshall's, TJ Maxx company.
It doesn't seem like something I'm going to be able to get rock climbing gear.
You
I have
might.
no
No,
issues
Sierra-
at.
You
okay,
might.
now I think we should probably go back to Newton issues, but
Yeah,
I will
sorry.
say Sierra Trading Post does sell that. I've
Oh, it
ordered
does?
from them
Okay.
for
Yeah.
years.
Oh, okay,
They've been
good.
a catalog-only company. I'm surprised to see them going
Yeah.
into retail.
It's a neat store.
maybe
I've
But
been in there.
we should probably get off
Okay.
the
Well,
where we shop.
here's the point though about commercial development, and I'm going to make this point, and then we'll pick. We'll go on to the next thing that the Fuller administration will be confronting. I just want to put in my 2 cents to say that commercial development in the city is the only key to long-term fiscal sustainability. The ratio of commercial to residential has to change. In other words, right now, because
sound fiscal management of government operations is also very important, including collective bargaining. That's the other pillar.
Absolutely true. However, the reason why it's the only essential or the most essential component is because fundamentally you can build all the residential in the world. Residential comes with a set of costs. They're wonderful costs. They're small and cute. They're called children. And as someone who has a couple of them myself, I recognize that I'm imposing a burden on the city budget because my cute little bundles of costs will attend the Newton Public Schools. And the fact is that the amount of taxes I pay, and most residents pay, does not pay for the services they receive, particularly if they have kids in the schools. So residential development is ultimately not a rateable. It's a negative on your spreadsheet.
Not necessarily.
On average...
I have to say the math is with Ken on this. Unless your home's appraised value is, let's say, $2 million, so that you're paying roughly $20,000 or $22,000 a year to the city in revenue, you're not paying your kid's share of the cost that the city spends per pupil on the Newton Public Schools.
And in fact, the way it works out is if you average it, some people have no kids, some people have kids.
Right,
But
and some people haven't had their kids in the school yet, and some people's kids
exactly.
have
They're only there for
just realize that we're not being overwhelmed with families that send 2, 3 kids to the schools, and that a lot of our residents here are older.
That's exactly
kids
right.
are out of the schools.
Andy, but if you do the math and you do the average, on average, residential units of Matt's right, up to about $2 million are not rateable. On average, those units cost the city more in services than they generate in taxes. Over $2 million, it is
if you're under the assumption that that all of these apartment buildings are going to be filled with
I'm talking about existing units.
Kids.
Forget about okay, just the existing housing.
Because most of the young families that I see, and I see them in my neighborhood, they're moving into a single-family house. They're not looking to move into an apartment.
It depends on the size of the apartment.
But there aren't that many apartments around, and if there were more, say, 80-some in
It's more than you
Newtonville,
think.
or
you
another
look around
in
and
Newtonville, or 900 and
my point is, in the long run, commercial always generates more taxes.
Commercial is so important. I'm not arguing it.
3 advantages commercial has. One is it doesn't impose as much of a burden on city services. The second is it's taxed at twice the rate.
The
so
one
right
thing
there,
I will say, though, is you need people to shop in the stores.
Yes, and we have them in droves.
We have lots of people.
85,000 people in the city who are
90.
Yeah, okay, right. 85,000 who are shopping, and the other 5% are sitting home now.
But this, it's a balance.
Stuck in traffic
you have to have
on the roads.
You have to have a good balance of this.
Yes.
And this is going to be the challenge. And if you're going
And-
to manage that balance, and then you're going to be able to create a fund that's going to pay down the debt on the liability, the OPEB liability.
Here's the point I want to make, and I just want to get to this. That the fact that the ratio between commercial and residential needs to change is something I am convinced that Mayor Fuller is 100% aware of. I interviewed her prior to, as I did all 3 major candidates for mayor prior to the election. We talked about this. We talked about this in a separate conversation off the air, and I am convinced she is aware that we need a higher percentage of commercial and that she is going to be willing to do the politically unpopular thing to the extent that she has to resist the desire to cram every possible housing unit into every development.
Yeah, look, I mean, the mayor, like the president, is an executive, and it's really going to be ultimately up to the city council to have these discussions.
I think in Newton there is a lot of communication, and there has historically been a lot of communication between the executive branch and the quasi-judicial / legislative branch, whether it was the Board of Aldermen or now the City Council. And I think Mayor Fuller is in a position to set the tone and say, look, yes, sure, some residential in these commercial districts, mixed use, that's all great, but I think she can set the tone, and her planning department can set the tone for setting us on a long-term path to long-term fiscal stability, and not to get ahead of ourselves because this isn't the prediction segment, I'm going to make a little prediction now that she will set us on that path. She's aware of it, and she will very gently nudge us in that direction by having an iterative conversation about
I don't
that.
disagree. I don't disagree.
Let's talk about another challenge facing the city, though.
Okay.
Matt, do you have any others in mind, or I'll throw one out there?
Throw one out, Ken. Let's
Okay.
hear it.
I would say something that has been consistently a problem in this city for, well, certainly going back through my 18 years on the city council and the 8 years since, and I would say long before that, is the condition of our sidewalks in the city. We have had a hodgepodge of tree roots uprooting parts of sidewalks. We've had no sidewalk at all in places. And then we've had poor snow removal, poor maintenance, sections of ice, which are basically giant potholes in the sidewalk. We have not consistently. Newton is a wonderful place to walk around, but also a potentially dangerous place to walk around depending on the time of year. And so I wonder, I know that there's in recent years have been some serious effort to get caught up in maintaining our streets. I wonder if there will not be a similar effort to get caught up in taking care of our sidewalks going forward. And I'm interested to hear what the panelists think about that issue.
Well, I certainly hope there will be. I was saving the condition of sidewalks and other infrastructure for my wish list section.
Okay. So,
But
well, we could get to the wish list.
no, it is a problem. I say this as someone who's lived here for a while. I walk around the city. I bike around the city. A lot of the sidewalks are in bad shape. And just to enumerate one other way that they are occluded or hard to pass on, some people, I'm not going to drop any names or street addresses right now, have been taking up sidewalks and planting gardens in that space. And I get that it's beautiful. And I know we're the Garden City. And I appreciate the nice
Planting
landscaping.
gardens right where the people are supposed to walk?
Yeah.
Like on your street, does this happen, or?
Hypothetically, yes. Come on over. And
I think I might know where.
conceivably. And it's a hard thing to object to because I love to garden and I appreciate gardens, and these folks who've done this, and it's not just on my street, I know of several other examples, have done a nice job for the most part. And some of it is just flowers to look at, and some of it is trees that create a privacy screen and effectively give somebody another 5 or 6 feet of front yard by moving, say, a hedgerow from behind the sidewalk out to the edge of the street.
Well, that's particularly an issue on steeper and more and streets where you wouldn't really want to be walking in the street.
Right.
And I know that yours might fall into that category. And as
Perhaps
do many
it's a street where there's a hill, a steep little hill on a curve, and
absolutely no place to walk safely.
right. And also, once people have done that, they of course stop any effort to clear the snow because it's their garden. Why would you want people trampling through your garden? And it's not just my neighborhood. I've seen this all over the city.
That's interesting. Andy, have you any thoughts on the sidewalk issue?
I like to walk the city too. I do it quite a bit. It's a beautiful, as we were saying, it's a great walkable city, and biking too. I don't have too much of a complaint about I know that the Warren administration in its last year did spend some money on renovation, redoing the sidewalks, but that's a lot of money moving forward that the Fuller administration is going to have to commit. Is there going to be that money? I don't know. I think we're talking $10 million a year to really get the streets and sidewalks up to the to good shape within the next decade. That's a lot of money, even for a city like Newton. We'll see what happens. As far as the shoveling and the sidewalks and keeping them clean in the winter, I try to be a good citizen. I'm like, okay, I hope this is good enough.
Well,
it's very difficult I see the older folks in my neighborhood, and we got hit with 1.5 feet almost last week.
Yeah.
Guy's snowblower wouldn't work. What do you do? Drop a fine on them because they weren't able to get it clear in 48 hours. That's the rule. That's the law.
There are volunteers who'll go around the city for folks who are elderly.
Yeah.
And I know, my neighborhood, other neighborhoods, people go around and check on older neighbors. Also, I'm going to toss this out there, and I will say first about the sidewalk gardens. I don't want this to become the leaf blower issue of 2018. I had a bunch of buddies come after me on Twitter although I had really nothing to do with the leaf blowers, just making fun of me because I live here and I get that.
That ban on leaf blowers?
Yeah, the whole discussion about leaf blowers. While people are thinking about sidewalks, I see that, I agree. While people are thinking about sidewalks, go shovel out your fire hydrants,
Yeah.
folks. Get 3 feet around them, including behind. Get through the berm.
All right,
Just putting it out there. 'Cause they're
Okay.
next to the sidewalk.
Absolutely, public safety.
So here is the question. Andy raises the issue of snow removal on sidewalks. We have an ordinance. It was a pilot for a few years. I think they may now have made it permanent. I heard some discussion about that. Is it working? Is it getting our sidewalks to where we like them to be? Andy, you brought it up.
I don't think it's making it any. I think it has to help some people have an incentive. I don't want to get a ticket, right? Because that was what
Have they actually ticketed anyone?
I've heard that maybe a couple of people were ticketed. I don't think it's a lot. I don't think the Newton Police Department is going around.
I heard that
inspecting.
no one has ever been ticketed. At least hasn't.
I heard there were a few.
Oh, really?
But a few.
Okay.
I don't know of any. Not that I want anybody around the city to have to pay fines to the city for failure to shovel their sidewalk. I'd much rather have them clear the snow from their sidewalk. I would like to see the city, maybe through the 311 system, take tabs and take reports on people who consistently violate that requirement, because it is a matter of public safety. You know, we walk around, and if you're walking your kids to school and you're forced to detour into the streets every third house with little kids going to school, it is a matter of public safety, or for anybody else.
So
for that matter.
I've got 2 thoughts on the snow removal issue on the sidewalks. I think that what inevitably happens when people say it's the residents' responsibility to clear the sidewalks is the city shirks its responsibility. And this happened for years. The city did a much better job of plowing many more miles of sidewalk. Now, I happen to be on one of the few remaining miles of school route that gets plowed by the city. I would rather pay taxes to have all the major arterials in the city plowed than rely on residents. Some of them will do it, some of them won't, and you've got this checkerboard. Charge me the taxes, clear the sidewalks and make them safe, because when I go for a walk, I don't have a teleportation ability once I get, and it's less of an issue for me as a still relatively young person who can tromp through some snow or maybe survive walking in the street a little bit. It doesn't make me feel good about kids, for example. I don't want my son, who's almost 11, walking the street. We decided to let him start walking some places, and I don't want him walking in the street at all. I want all the major streets in the city plowed. I want them plowed by the city. And also, it's an economy of scale. It's efficient. I mean, let's put it this way. We don't ask Newton residents to shovel the snow from the street. Why are the sidewalks less important than the street? Why shouldn't the city put just as much effort into getting the sidewalks? I understand you get the streets clear first so all the emergency vehicles can get through and that the plows can get to do other things and all that. But after that, have that same force go out and make sure they have enough equipment, and maybe it might not be instantaneous, but over the next day or two after the storm, clear. I mean, you think we've got 300 miles of street. Obviously, there's 2 sides to every street. That's potentially 600 miles of sidewalk, but most streets, one side is enough.
Yeah.
And some of those streets, a lot of those streets are little dead-end streets, which shouldn't be a priority.
Yeah.
But the number of miles at a mile an hour per vehicle, done the math on this, it would not be expensive for Newton to have machines clear every mile of street, of sidewalk that needs to be cleared.
Major streets.
Major streets.
Yeah, I don't expect, I agree. I'd love to see it. I don't expect the city to be clearing streets in every residential neighborhood.
No, not the little dead end
But the major streets should be. And
I'll
I'll toss out one other piece that the city should be responsible for in doing this, the curb cuts. Because I'm not sure how the city feels about, if the current reg requires neighbors who are presently responsible for clearing the sidewalk in front of their home to clear a curb cut out to the street for a crosswalk or at a corner. But that's really an imposition, because especially on the larger streets that get cleared to a wider width,
right.
those curb cuts can be piled with 4 or 5.
That was my second point, Matt.
Yes.
Which is that the city trucks, I understand, but which is both city employees and contractors, the first time through, they're just trying to widen the streets. I get it. And they're doing whatever they can to get the snow out of the street. But we've got to have them come back through and clear the snow from the corners, because even if on your block every single person shovels their sidewalk, and then you get to the corner and there's an enormous amount of snow. You can't climb through. You're going to end up walking in the street anyway.
Yeah.
So those corners where the city, and this has been an issue for years.
And I would just say, you're not going to just do it right at the corner. You're going to find the nearest driveway, which is probably 50 or 60 feet away, and spend 60 feet walking in the street with cars in order to be able to cross the street.
But what happens also is people don't even trust walking on the sidewalk because they know they're going to have that as a corner, so they just end up walking the street, or they stay home and like, I can't walk, I'm going to drive, or they're going to do something else because they don't feel like the streets are reliably cleared. And this is true, by the way, even on the sidewalks where the city plows are supposed to be clearing it in some cases. There's still these piles of snow, and the city plows just kind of cut out around them. So, but it takes a big truck to clear those piles. It takes a big truck to create them, takes a big truck to clear them. And this, by the way, the city does clear them in village centers. I would be willing, again, to pay more taxes to have those cleared on other streets, too, at least on the big arterial streets where, you know, it's dangerous to walk.
You're very passionate about sidewalks, Ken.
It's just one of those things.
They would need to invest in, I don't know what you call them, bobcats.
Bombardiers.
But
Bobcats that you can outfit with plows.
But you go to other cities. This is, by the way, not something that is unique to Newton. There are other cities and towns around the Commonwealth and around the Northeast that do a great job of this. And you can even go to there's this land to the north of us, Canada, where they get way more snow than us, and you can walk around there, and all the sidewalks are miraculously cleared. It costs some money, it takes some time and resources, but try going to Montreal or Quebec City. Nobody shovels their own sidewalk there. They have machines doing all the sidewalks. The same is true in many cities and towns around the state. You go to Concord, Massachusetts, they have a wonderful program of clearing the sidewalks. Yes, we've got more miles of sidewalk than Concord, but we also have more money than Concord because we have more people and more potential revenue.
I would like to say that, you know, I know this can sound like a first world problem, arguing about whether or not, you know, the sidewalks are accessible. But I don't.
Well, we live in the first world, all right?
We do, and some first world problems are real problems, and also would be second or third world problems if they occurred there, and they do. But it's not just a matter of creature comforts or, you know, having things look nice so we can walk around.
Public safety, especially for the number of older folks that we have living here.
Well, for everybody, for kids going to school or visiting friends, for older folks, but also we started this show out talking about density and development. And just about everybody agrees that having Newton be a walkable city is a really nice thing. And denser development encourages that. Wherever you come down
you're going to put more people, you're going to have more people on the sidewalks.
Well, wherever you come down,
right?
Even if you don't, but wherever you come down on denser development, right now we make Newton an unwalkable city for at least 3 months of the year because we just don't want to.
In the village centers, though, the businesses are responsible for shoveling and keeping their areas and the sidewalks.
Well, but
and they do a pretty good job with it.
But think about
the
Newtonville
city,
or
but
West
also
Newton.
the city comes in and removes all those big piles of snow. The city trucks from our village centers.
But
so they have someplace to put the snow when they're shoveling.
But that only covers perhaps a quarter mile, you know, a 1,200-foot stretch of, say,
Washington Street.
Of Walnut Street and Washington Street. In
Center
Newtonville,
Street,
Center Street around the Newton Center Plaza, West Newton, Nantum, and so on.
Sure.
But if you want people to be able to walk to these places from anywhere other than a house that's 500 feet from a village center, you have to have the city clear these sidewalks.
And this point
because the residents just aren't doing it.
This point was driven home to me, pardon the pun here, while we were picking our son up from Mason Rice the other day, because there was a huge traffic jam, you know, blocking the whole Mason Rice area because everyone was driving to pick their kid up. Why? These are kids that usually walk.
Tyler Terrace, is that?
Usually these kids walk, but the parents weren't going to let them walk in these unsafe conditions. So, okay, enough with sidewalks. But well, why don't we go to our wish lists? You want to lead us off, Matt? What's on your wish list for 2018?
I mean, there's so many. First, we could talk about sidewalks. We could talk about bikes and safe routes to bike and the maintenance and condition of the city streets. Because as I'm sure we all know, you're never supposed to bike on the sidewalk. You're supposed to bike in the street. Under Mass law, bicycles are vehicles. They're to be operated in the street.
Except on state highways, of course, where they're not allowed.
you're not allowed.
Or if they have training wheels.
And they're not allowed on the track where I'm jogging, by the way.
Perhaps foolishly, I took the training wheels off my bike just last September, and now I can't ride on the sidewalk.
Just have a special pair you throw on.
There's infrastructure more generally, zoning, distribution of
Let's
schools.
let's talk about them one at a time. Why don't you pick one that you and we'll go around the
Okay.
table and have a conversation. Then we'll do one of Andy's.
All right.
All right. So
I feel like I went on about sidewalks. You want to go, Andy?
In terms of a wish,
A wish list.
we'll get back to it. I would love to see that 28-acre Northland parcel, a proposal at the city council with some momentum that would include robust, and this is important, I'm being selfish, interesting commercial development.
what's interesting to you, Andy?
That's I
What do
would
you want, a movie theater?
I would
Let's hear it.
love a movie theater. I would love a movie theater. And it obviously couldn't be like the Showcase in Dedham, with a huge parking lot.
Yeah, like
But
a
would
West
it-
Newton cinema-sized movie theater, maybe.
Perhaps,
That'd be nice to have one in walking distance.
And West Newton Cinema, is similar to Coolidge Corner. It's an art house cinema, but
Right.
something that would maybe show kid-friendly movies.
Yeah.
Um,
All smaller screens and
How
smaller
about a bowling
theaters.
alley? We don't have a bowling alley.
Ken, a bowling alley. We used to have a bowling alley.
Yeah.
Remember where the bowling alley was? It was on Washington Street in Newton Corner when I was a
Right.
kid, and we had a movie theater. You know where the movie theater was,
In Newton
right?
Center,
Of
right?
course,
Where
right on
Pier
Langley Road. No, Beacon Street. I'm sorry,
Beacon
but
Street.
but yeah.
You're right, no triangle.
Yeah,
Sure.
yeah.
I remember it
And
well.
it would be great if we had something like that. I mean, I go to the Super Lux in Chestnut Hill occasionally, but sometimes you want just sort of a little, less formal, fancy movie
Do they
experience.
massage your feet there for all
They
that
do,
money? What
and
do
they
they
will
do?
give you the hot steaming towels. No, it's a very nice place.
No,
Very nice place.
I've
great.
never paid that much for a movie, and I don't plan.
I
on
have
it,
a
but-
few times, but yeah, few.
I like the reclining chairs, but they've got them in Braintree and all the movie theaters now that are like the usual $12 tickets.
Right. It would be
and-
wonderful to have robust commercial development there. Obviously, you're going to need some residential to support it. And by the way, find a developer who's just going to build commercial somewhere there. They want the residential to make money, and developers have a right to make money too.
I think they're doing okay.
you
I
think
won't
so?
worry too much.
But
If you're losing sleep over the developers not making money on their projects in Newton,
But,
I could introduce you to some starving children in Africa.
But that would be, and I'm being selfish about the Northland because that's my neighborhood, right? So I live
Sure.
just up the street from here.
Sure.
And it would be
Okay.
terrific. It
So,
would be
Matt, you want to
terrific.
talk about what you think should happen with Northland at all, or
With Northland?
you have a thought
Sure.
on that? or-
I'm going to lead off with a prediction. I know we're not at the prediction section
All
about
right.
Northland, but I'm going to say right now that I think their figure of 900 units is just a page taken from the playbook of the Newtonville developers, Scott Oran
you
and
start with
Dinosaur
a higher
Capital,
number than you really
and they're
want.
just going to go
That's
down.
from every developer, but I mean,
It's
that's
just-
ubiquitous.
It's
That's
just their
always,
negotiating
yeah,
position.
of course.
Yeah.
I mean, they've
Of course.
probably decided, and I'm
700.
500.
Yeah.
They'd be fine at 500. They'd be fine at 200.
I doubt that. I don't think 200. That's a big
I think they'd
property.
be-
Oh, my
I
heart
think they-
bleeds for them. Oh, how
Okay.
difficult.
All right. Well, let's.
That's my prediction for Northland.
Okay, yeah.
I would love to see commercial development, and I'd love, and I say this as someone who uses banks and who occasionally shops at cupcake shops. I would love to see things other than just banks and cupcake shops.
But you know what we really
go
need
in
more
there.
of is coffee shops and nail salons, though, right? Because there aren't enough of those in Newton Center.
You know what? I've got no objection to coffee shops.
Coffee shops are terrific. I mean,
Yeah.
I think we have a good amount.
That,
in
that's
the center, but
yeah, no.
yeah.
and that's an area that
That's always the Newton Center task force was like, how can we have fewer? Everything's a coffee shop or a beauty parlor.
And listen,
of some kind.
we're probably the three of us not that
I don't-
concerned with our
don't spend a
nails,
lot of time on
but
my
there are
nails.
many residents of the city who are concerned
Yes,
with their
yes.
nails.
Here's the thing.
You
I
know.
don't want to go into the business of planning commercial development and specifically in deciding what businesses should and should not be in an area.
Right. That's,
I just want to see commercial development that succeeds, and by succeeds I mean stays in business, whether it's restaurants or
bookstores.
bookstores,
Are there any of those
barbershops,
left in Newton?
We have a little
salons.
one.
Okay,
We have a
there's
little
in Newton
mobile
Center.
book fair.
Look, if
the
what-
mobile book fair is not the mobile book fair anymore.
No.
It's just a little.
But you know what? I'll
But
say
you know
this.
what,
I've been
Newtonville-
in there.
Newtonville
I've
Books
purchased
is-
books from there. There's nothing wrong with it. It's a nice little place.
It's a
but
bookstore,
no, it's
but
not the same
it's
experience.
it
I
is
know.
a bookstore. It is not the wonderful bookstore that I grew up with and that you grew up with,
Yeah.
and that it's
different.
not the same experience.
Right.
You know,
it's
it
like
was
any
neat,
other
though,
bookstore.
when they
now.
first brought the books in there, it smelled the same because they smelled like the
the old wood
warehouse.
and everything. Yeah.
Yeah, but that
Yeah, that didn't last
dissipated.
for long.
Yeah.
But
Look, if,
okay,
if what goes
on-
in at
on North-
Northland is, say, a bowling alley and a movie theater and 10 nail salons, great.
Okay.
I'll be happy.
All right,
If that's
well,
what people want and want to go there for, terrific.
all right,
We could use a mini Target. You know, they're developing these small Targets now. We could use a smaller version of a Target. We have a smaller Wegmans.
You know what that area could use that should have been there, and instead we got the Avalon? A supermarket.
Yeah, Stop and Shop was supposed to go there.
Yeah, but
that's
instead we got the
that's a
Avalon.
discussion for another
Great,
day.
you know,
the
nice
reason why we got
development.
that is they tried to link it to turning Needham Street into a highway, and that's why people were opposed to it. Not that they were opposed to the grocery store; they were opposed to the package deal that went with the grocery store. People now looking back on it say, "Oh, a grocery store would have been nice." They didn't see the proposal. I was on the board of Aldermen.
There is a
It was
grocery store
terrible
going in
proposal.
there. There, in the Nexus, in the Newton Nexus, it's not opened yet, but on the other side from where the Sierra Trading Post
And there's
is.
a Russian
Oh,
grocery
there's
store
a
now.
smaller
There is a grocery.
grocery
There's
store
Baza
going in
too.
there.
I
Yeah.
like Baza. It's
Baza, right?
Yep, it's a nice grocery store. I think there could be another one.
Okay. Let me just put my 2 cents in on the issue of the Northland development. I do not think there is any minimum number of housing units needed to make that economically successful or good for the city. I think that they will insist on some housing units because there tends to be a higher margin on them. But it's clear that there are many profitable business and retail spaces. You know, you can build some Class A office space there. There's a lot of ways of making a project profitable without residential. And I think it's incumbent upon the city, the planning department, the Fuller administration to put as much pressure on the developer as possible to make it as high a ratio of commercial to residential as possible. In other words, the less residential and the more commercial, and because they're going to want to do it the other way. So it's going to be a battle. So how I will grade the Fuller administration on this is the higher percentage of commercial that goes in there as opposed to residential, the better a grade they get. That's their score. 90% or more commercial, that's an A.
Here's two other things for Northland. I agree with you. I think they're going to insist on some residential development in there because that will get the fans of residential development to back their project.
No
That's a
doubt.
prediction.
That's the politics or the
Yep.
politics.
And second, I don't know if this is a great business for that site, but I'd love to see like an outpatient surgical center or a cluster of doctors' offices in that area.
Okay.
I think it's a great spot for it. It's near the highways. Could bring a lot of business to the area.
Zoning challenge.
All right,
there.
let me
I
throw
think
out
we'd
one
have
for
to
my
create
wish list since we're going. We'll go around the table and do the wish list.
Okay.
Full day kindergarten. It's long past time. Jim Marini had it all queued up and ready to go, and then he was gone, and it didn't happen.
Yeah.
And people balked and gave in, and but we are literally the last city or town in the state
One of
now.
the one or two.
Yeah, right. The ones we used to always say, "Oh, we're not the only ones." Wellesley still doesn't have it.
they don't.
There were a couple others.
Yeah.
I think there might be, one
Yeah,
other
there's
left.
one other.
It's like, why are we the last?
That's
Newton-
my prediction. My prediction is that there will be either at the least great momentum towards the establishment of a full day K program, or it will have already been approved and being in the process of being implemented for a couple of years down the road. But I think that there is now absolutely
So
on the school
this
committee.
is wonderful. I love
and
this,
in the,
Andy.
and in City Hall, I think there will be.
My prediction. I mean, my wish list and your prediction are one and the same.
Mm-hmm.
So, from your mouth to the city officials'
Mm-hmm.
ears, as it were.
I
All
do
right.
think that will happen.
Matt, any thoughts on full day K?
Both of my kids have recently gone through kindergarten. My kids are in 3rd grade and 1st grade. I know your son is older. It's been a while.
My daughter might still theoretically take advantage of it.
She might. My kids both missed it. I can see the arguments against it. The kindergarten teachers have all said that having the half-day kindergarten with the staggered schedule to start the year and throughout the year for kindergartners lets them spend more time with a smaller group and they can get more done and teach more effectively. There are other ways to do that, though. You could.
And somehow 340 some odd other cities and towns in the state have figured out other ways to do that.
Well, for what it's worth, Newton schools are rated really highly, and this might be a component of that. But there are other ways to have a smaller student-to-teacher ratio than sending half the kids home early, half the days of the week. You could hire more teachers.
That would also work.
Yes.
Well, the teachers are already there. And I think the other argument that you have to consider with the full-day kindergarten is that, yes, the children are the most important. It's an NPS program, and they're the concern. That said, it's also, I think, important there are many parents and families in this city who have these kindergarten kids who are both working. And
I know.
All of us have, kids
Yeah.
who are younger.
If
and we
not
know
everyone's got a nanny, it's true.
and one of the biggest challenges with parenting younger kids is scheduling. This one has to be here. This one has to be there. It's at how are we going to do this? And when you have that inconsistency in scheduling of a kindergarten's 5 years old child, this can be very difficult for families.
And the other thing is it creates inequality because the wealthier people have the aftercare programs, have the supplemental programs. It's not a problem for them,
Right.
but the people who are less affluent, their kids lose out in
Right.
that context.
Right.
I would say
So-
the same thing is true with after-school programs for the other kids. We have these early release days, and some kids have great opportunities and good use of that time, and other kids are missing out on education.
Yeah. I will say, I am all for full-day kindergarten. I'd love to see it happen. I was just trying to provide a counterpoint.
Oh,
in
no,
the
that's
Well, there was
fair.
always the
perspective.
argument also that there wasn't really a demand for it, and that's why it wasn't done.
How about
But
foreign
I've
language in the
never-
elementary schools?
I've never believed
That's another one. That was eliminated. What are your thoughts on that?
Latin.
Just-
Latin was it wasn't
Well,
in an elementary
yeah,
school. So it was
elementary
middle
school.
school.
There-
Middle
no,
school.
no,
middle school.
there was a
Really?
program one day
Yeah.
a week where you do French or Spanish in the elementary schools. They got rid of that during one of these rounds of budget cuts. Anyway, let's go to something next. You got another wish on your list, Matt? I guess it's your turn.
I'd love to see more planning around where schools are placed and how school districts are set. And rather than continuing to build,
You think that there ought to be a correspondence between where the demand is and where the school is located?
I think that would be a nice thing. And I understand that it's hard because these things are not completely elastic. Once you set a school down, it tends to stay put.
Like when you put two middle schools right next to each other, for example.
Well, they do tend to stay there, and
They don't.
it's very hard to relocate them later. And it's true that people move around, and as housing gets built and built to different levels of density in different parts of the city and turns over differentially at different rates in different parts of the city, it's hard to predict where children are going to live in the city, school-age children who go to the public schools. But I would love to see more planning around that and more planning for additional elementary schools. Because
Okay.
all the research out there indicates that a 400-person elementary school is manageable. Principals can get to know everybody well, and when you go towards 500, which is what they've been
We're
building.
over 500 in a couple of them.
Well, some of them are, yeah.
Reservists.
Reservists
is the
and
only
Mason
one.
Rice has been over 500. Bowen was over
Occasionally,
500.
I think
Yeah.
Countryside went over 500.
Yeah,
so
it's.
way beyond capacity.
And
Yeah,
by
that's
the
what
way,
I'm saying, they weren't
Right.
built for it.
Service is
But-
built for 500.
Right.
When it goes beyond capacity, it'll be at 650.
Right.
Right, and I'm sure the same will happen at
It's
Ainger.
a middle school, essentially.
And Cabot, the elementary school in Newtonville, and where my kids go,
Right.
when we went to the meetings for the planning, they were saying, oh, well, we're going to build for a little extra capacity to maybe 420 to 440. Right now, it's 480. That's the plans. And when it's over capacity, it'll have 600 kids in it. And make no mistake, with the Austin Street development and the Orr Block development along Washington Street between Lowell and Walnut,
Washington Place, yeah.
yeah, either Cabot is going to go to 600 kids or Horace Mann is.
Aquinas also is
So,
going to be a property,
Andy, what do you think?
eventually.
Do we need more elementary schools in the city
There's going to be an elementary school override at some point.
to
I
build
don't know.
more, or to make
To expand,
the
to
existing
renovate and
one?
expand.
There's two schools of thought. keep making the existing ones bigger or build more.
Knock down and build
No,
on
not
site?
knock
where are you
down.
proposing to build? Because there's
Well,
not a lot
I mean,
of buildable land here.
there is the proposal I've heard for Coletti Elementary, which would be in Upper Falls, and it would be on, the city owns quite a bit of land there.
The Emerson property, where the Emerson school is, there is a
No,
school
not
there.
not the Emerson property. The right on Elliott Street, there where the Elliott Street yard is.
I haven't heard that.
There's people call it Coletti
I mean,
Elementary.
there's
'cause it's
the
where
old
former
Emerson school is
finance
there in
commissioner-
Upper Falls, and the school's there, and it's a beautiful site.
that's
but there
true.
we
So-
can't. It's conservation,
Well, we've lost.
recreation land.
I think we sold off 8 or
Yeah.
9 elementary schools. There's
Right.
Davis,
Right.
Hyde, obviously.
Claflin.
Yeah, I mean Hamilton in Upper Falls. Hamilton in Lower Falls, Emerson in Upper Falls.
The schools that'll be looked at will be countryside is a big priority. I think you would probably end up building up there. You have Franklin School in West Newton is an old
It's in bad
school,
shape.
and it's small and it's in bad shape. I'm guessing that's going to be a complete new school on site.
Well,
And then there's my alma
Ward.
mater, the Ward
Yeah,
School.
number 1 in Newton, right?
And
Anyway.
and it's a beautiful place, and I still go there. So I just ride my bike there.
Yeah.
Thought is they're going to knock that down, but nothing's formal, obviously. But
Right.
that
But-
they won't
but
because it's such a small footprint.
Yeah. But they do have land. I mean, they could expand into the
But then
field
you'd
around it.
encroach on the field and the park.
well,
and
okay.
Yes.
I'm just going to say on this item, I am of the opinion that we once had many more, I think 25 elementary schools in the city.
Yep.
We're down to like 16. As the population has increased, rather than having the number of elementary schools increase, we've gone to these mega schools, as some have called them. I think that we should reverse that trend by building more elementary schools, and we need to do it proactively. We shouldn't wait till we're bursting at the seams. The process of building an elementary school takes years. We see the direction the pendulum is swinging. We see the direction the numbers are going. We should be talking this year, 2018, about finding the land to put those elementary schools. Because after all, why do people live in the city of Newton? Well, it's convenient, it's walkable, it's got
Good
nice
schools.
parks. The schools, number one reason people are here.
Yeah.
We cannot wait until our backs are up against the wall and then have a crisis. We should start. I know it's hard, Andy. I agree with you. Hard to find places to put more elementary schools. But even with these mega schools, we're going to need more buildings. And if we want them to be walkable, they're going to need to be, as Matt says, where the children actually
I think that's
live.
a long-term vision that something could be considered. Like you said, you're really boxed in though with a
It's
lack
tough.
of developable land for
It's
school
tough,
building.
but it's not impossible.
No, not impossible.
But speaking of things that are impossible, let's try to get to every other topic we can think of in the next 7 minutes. No,
I have a wish. I have another wish.
Let's hear your wish.
And it's related to this discussion, and Matt will appreciate this, or maybe not. This is a little controversial,
Okay.
and it has to do with the Newtonville and Cabot. I hope that when this, if this is selfish, okay. I hope Humpty Dumpty is displayed outside the new Cabot School, not put in a case somewhere in a lobby somewhere.
I hope so. My understanding was that's the plan.
I don't know that that's a plan, and I think they're going to put him in a case with a little sign saying this. I don't know. There's no plan, obviously, yet.
Wow.
He's away somewhere out of state, being
really?
Being
getting
renovated.
a makeover because he was in a little bit
Well,
of disrepair.
you know, if you
what
wa-
happened, guys? He
if you wanna
fell
know the
off of
answer to that,
wall, right?
If you want to know, Matt's going the same place I was going to go. I was saying, if you want to know what's going to happen to him, just ask Alice when she's 3 feet tall.
But I really do. I hope Humpty is restored somewhere. I was one of these people who thought that they should have reconfigured the school so that you could have that
All right.
magnificent
Let's
vista
try
from
to
the
run
park,
some more of
but-
these. Through a few more.
No.
I'll give you another wish for my wish list for this year, which is that city employees be treated with decency and respect once again. I think there's been far too much berating of city employees and frankly just lack of professionalism coming from the top in the last 8 years. And I think that we're going to see, I know we've already started to see a change in that. I think Ruth Ann Fuller is going to set a tone where city employees are treated well, and I've already started to hear that is taking place. And I think there's a metric we can look at to see whether that's taking place, which is the turnover rate. in city department heads. People who are in career positions lower than department heads don't have a lot of places to go, but department heads are able to move to another city in town. And the higher level people in city government, we had huge turnover over the last administration. I think we will see a reduction in turnover because people will be treated better and feel like they're more part of a team, they're listened to, they're respected, and I think that's going to be great for the quality of services that Newton residents experience.
I agree.
I
You're looking
mean,
for controversy?
No,
It
no.
remains to be seen. I would not think for a second that Ruth Ann Fuller will be, a completely touchy-feely manager at City Hall. I think she is very tough. I think she will demand production, performance,
I totally agree with that.
accountability.
I don't think those are contradictory. I think you can be tough but fair, respect people, listen to them, and be cool, calm, and collected and professional in your interactions.
But I
with
do
them.
agree. I think there will be, with the change of any administration and leadership, it'll be a different culture. So we'll see. We can always hope that things will get better as they go.
The difference between what you're saying, Andy, and what I'm saying is I'm making a value judgment. I'm not saying it'll just be different. I'm
Right.
saying it'll be better.
Let's hope that things continue to improve.
I've got another wish for
Okay,
you.
what's another wish?
So I would love to see improved public access to our waterways. To specifically, I'm thinking of Crystal Lake and Bullows Pond and the Cove.
Can you swim anywhere in Crystal Lake?
Yeah,
That could be an issue.
I think you should be allowed to.
I think you should
at
too.
the public property.
Why not?
Obviously, there's a liability. I think it's pretty easily manageable. You say you're swimming at your own
When you
risk
say
here.
anywhere,
post
it
a
would have to
sign.
be from a public cove.
From-
It
from-
can't be from other people's
Yeah,
private property.
Right.
People who
Then-
own private property
Cronin's,
already
Livingstone,
Yes.
Livingstone.
The two spots
Cronin's Cove.
on Lake Ave,
Yeah.
right where the right-hand
Well,
turn
there's
is as
one
you
that's
come from
supposed to be
Beacon
the
Street.
boat loading area, and there's one that's supposed to be the sort of fishing-ish kind of area.
Yeah.
And what happens is people from the boat loading area, which is Cronin's Cove, people tend to go swimming off that dock.
They do anyway.
And
yeah.
people
Yes, of
and
course.
where the fishing area is supposed to be, or the quiet contemplation
Yeah.
cove, that's where people tend to load their boats.
Right.
So go figure.
But the
We don't-
police do enforce the no swimming from time to time.
Right.
And I agree with you. It's a public water.
Yeah.
It's not the residents who live on the lake. It's not their private lake.
Right.
People are going to park there anyway because you are allowed to go and sit and fish and do whatever else you want to do,
Absolutely.
and put your ankles in the water. My understanding also is that it's
Only up to the ankle,
it's
though,
a
not-
state law that's almost 100 years old that turns over to the municipalities how to regulate bodies of great ponds
and the
like
Parks and
this.
Rec Commission has this policy. Let's go to one more wish item. I'll throw one out there if you guys don't have one, which is I'd like to see better maintenance of the paths in our city parks. I'm thinking particularly, I live near Cold Springs Park. Not to be parochial, I think this is true of all of the parks. We had something used to be beautiful and well maintained. It was the Exer Trail.
Right.
There was equipment
Right.
along it
Yeah,
for doing
yeah.
various stations. They're rotting. They're splintering wood. They're dangerous and they're eyesores.
I did
now.
spend some time at Cold Springs. My daughter plays in Newton girls softball, and there were several games there. And there were a few times I would take a walk, and I used to use it as the exit trail. It could use a touch-up and some TLC. Let's put it that way. It could use
But
some TLC.
that's just one example. Throughout the city, better maintenance of these paths and city equipment. And while we're at it, city buildings. I think one thing that was a real failure of the last 8 years is there wasn't the amount of resources put into maintenance of city buildings that I think, based on the campaign, would have thought the administration would have done. And I'd like to see, and I know the new mayor, Mayor Fuller, has put a lot of emphasis on that too as a candidate, talking about long-term planning. OPEB, she's talked about a lot. So the three big deficits we had were the healthcare/OPEB deficit, the energy consumption deficit, and the infrastructure deficit.
Seti Warren did a lot with the city council over the past several years to really improve the energy efficiency in a lot of the buildings, and he's
Well,
dealing
I'm
with
not
old
sure-
buildings, so I wouldn't
I'm not
be
sure that
criticizing
we
him that much.
actually-
That doesn't say that there's not a ton
Okay.
left to do.
I'd love to see the city put up solar panels and windmills.
They put up a
Well,
lot
I mean,
of solar
how many
panels.
electric vehicles do we have in the city fleet now? I think the same as when Mayor Cohen was
I
mayor.
think so.
I don't think we've been really going in the direction on the environment. That Newton used to be a leader on the environment. We were the first city in the country to have the kind of recycling program. We were a pioneer in that area, and I think we've lagged way behind in that area in the environment. And I think
if you want to boost the number of EVs, electric vehicles, more charging stations.
and you've got one, so
I
you
do.
would know.
I know where they are, and there's not a lot.
But the city ought to lead by example too.
Yes.
And because they're not going that far, the city vehicles. Anyway, there's so much. Let's quickly predictions.
Well, I did give my 2 predictions, and
Your
I
chance,
will
Ken.
stand by them. We're going to have full-day kindergarten,
well,
and that was the one big prediction.
I think I have to
only
wrap
couple
up the
seconds.
show now.
Matt, you got a
Thank you all for
prediction?
More
watching.
More excitement.
Thank
That's
you,
it.
Matt.
Yes.
I'm
Thanks,
keeping
Ken.
it short.
Thank you, Andy.
There will be more drama.
Thank you to our
in Garden
wonderful
City.
crew,
Okay.
Richard Berman, as always, and our fantastic
Yeah,
first-time
everybody.
director, O'Gara. Thanks for your excellent work.